All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Hey, I'm Brother Brian here on KIEZ 106.7 FM, the voice of the community. Hey, I got a special guest. He was a native of Monroe for a short period of time. He came, put the work in, transition, and went back home. He's just like in the Wiz, Dorothy in the Wiz. There's no place like home. So he went back. I want to say good afternoon, Brother Muhammad. We know him as Brother Lawrence. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, my brother. How are you?
I am doing wonderful as well. Thank you, sir. And I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule just to chat with us and bringing back how the importance of being a part of a prosperous, healthy community.
Yes, yes. Thank you. This is a very much needed discussion. So I'm looking forward to what we have to talk about today.
All right, all right. But first, I want to talk about. Looks like you're in a compilation, or they call it an anthology,
Yes.
a book that's written by um, a brother David and sister Nai. How you pronounce her name?
Naira.
Naira. Okay, all right.
Yes.
The title of the book, and it's a strong title. It's called "Repair of the Black Family." So tell us a little bit about the book itself, and you also are a co-author.
Yes. So the idea of the book actually came from Sister Naira. She says that, a book is something that she's always wanted to do, and she will always wanted to give back and help the community. And it was a little difficult trying to do it all on her own. But the thought came in mind was like, we have so many different issues as a community that it would be great if we can get advice or insight from other people as well. And so it kind of spurred from there, where she put out a call for those who would be interested in becoming a part of the book. And I happened to be one of those who answered the call. I was a little reluctant, I'm not really an author type person, but that's my sister. So I was like, yeah, I'm all in, let's go for it. So there's actually 33 authors in this book. And each author has a unique perspective. And so looking at it from that perspective, each author gives their perspective, but at the end of their chapter, they also give 3 solutions for that issue. So 33 authors with 99 solutions.
Okay, I like that. And your chapter of the book is titled "Healing the Wounds Between Parents and Children."
Yes.
However, your story is a little bit more specific, dealing with the man and the son. And you tell
Yes.
your story in detail. I don't want to give it away, but you tell your story in detail. And if you can, give us a few highlights of your chapter, because I want to be able to relate that relationship between the man and the son in a home, in a community, to the repercussions or some of the after effects or byproducts of what's taking place in our community today, as far as the senseless killings.
Yes, absolutely. And so, yeah, my particular chapter is dealing with healing the wounds between parents and children. And even though it relates to mothers and fathers as well, to both, my particular story is just an example of what I dealt with my father. And as you know, and as all of our people know, in particular today, there is an issue with the young Black male. And in particularly because there's no male role models in their lives. And so my story goes into basically the dysfunction of the relationship between myself and my father, and how it was a very strained relationship, because I had thoughts on what I believed parenthood and fatherhood should be. And I'm pretty sure he had an idea on what the child's relationship should be to the father. And, So that relationship was strained for a very, very long time from when I was very young. And finally, it came to a head where we had a direct discussion with one another. And I found out some things about my father that I never knew. And finding out those things, discovering those things about him gave me an entirely different perspective of him. And then I realized why he was the way that he was and why he could not give me what I was looking for, because he had never received it himself. And so I believe that when people read that story, they'll be able to look at their own relationships with their children, father, son, mother, daughter, vice versa, and be able to give one another the benefit of the doubt and not be so quick to judge one another. And then we can see how we affect one another and start to build positive relationships.
Okay, okay, I like that. I like that. So I want to dive a little bit deeper in that aspect of
Okay.
that relationship, because until we clean up as men, the community will always be in a somewhat disarray. So as you were speaking about that relationship, how the two relate, and you were seeking, he was giving, he was seeking, and it goes from generation to generation, but there's a gap somewhere. But up until the day that the two of you sat down face to face and communicated, you you received, he sent the message, and it was a little bit more clear to you, and then you accepted the entire paradigm of where he came from and what he was attempting to give, and it made a lot, according to your story now, it made a lot of sense to you, and you
Yes.
grew through that conversation. And that's the conversation, if it's fair to say, Brother Lawrence, and just let the people know, Brother Lawrence lived in Monroe, Louisiana, right here in our community. He was a great leader. He is a great leader. He was a leader in our community, dealing with death that took place in our community, dealing with all kind of social issues. And so he ended up was able to go back home and still had to deal with other issues personally. But going back to that, Brother Lawrence, the
Yes.
challenges with the black male, because in Monroe, I don't know if you heard lately, and I'm pretty sure it's happening all over, but it touches home when it's happening in your own area. We're having a lot of senseless killings in this area. And as you mentioned, the challenge with the young black male. Do you think there are contributing factors because the young black male is attempting to identify with his father, and there's a void or there's a gap there? We just need to talk to that person face to face to feel what we're looking for.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think that has a major role in what's taking place, because the father figure is one who disciplines, he gives instruction, and so when there's not that role model that's involved in the life of the son in particular, then that son has no guidance. The mother can give as much guidance as she can, but no matter how much guidance she gives, a woman cannot make a boy a man. He has to see a man in his life. And so sometimes the father is not present. And as I was growing up, if father wasn't present, then there was uncle that would take the place of father. There was some male figure in the life of these young boys. So as they grew up, they had some type of direction in life. But nowadays, the youth don't have any direction. They don't know what it's like to be a man because they've never seen a man. They've never been around a man. So the streets raise them, social media raises them, and they think that what they see in social media is what it means to be a man. You got to have 2, 3, 4, 5 women to be a man. You have to have money or the bag to be a man. And so that's the idea of manhood that our young people have, but that's the farthest thing from the truth. And it's the same with our sisters. They have to see a woman in order to become a woman. So we've become very materialistic today. And the violence that you see here in New Orleans is, I mean, it's 2 to 3 killings almost daily. And a lot of that is anger and hatred because they don't have a father, and the majority don't even know their fathers. And there's a void that's in them. And so they go to the streets, and the streets befriend them, and then they become a victim to the streets.
Very powerful, very powerful. Now, you also mentioned about in the book, Repair of the Black Family. Each and every author, a total of, you said 30, correct?
33.
33, I apologize, times
Yes.
3. 33, but each author gives 3 solutions. So we want you to share with us what were your, if you're able to, the 3 solutions, and see how we can relate that to our current condition in our community. Because if we've decided that there's a void between the older Black male and the younger Black male, and the Black male, older Black male gives instruction, direction, that means that the older Black male has not given a solution to the young male for the challenges that the young male faces.
Yes, this is true. So I won't give all 3 solutions because you have to get the book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand.
But I will give one, and I'll say this. So repair, some people were asking, well, why is it repair of the Black family? Why are you singling out the Black family? And we have to understand that when you repair the Black family, you actually repair humanity, because it's the Black family that is the example for the world. Our culture is now all over the world. The trends are set by Black people. Everything that you see around the world from different races is based on our culture. And so when we are able to clean up ourselves and show what righteousness looks like, what men and women actually look like, then that will be reflected all throughout the world. So we say to repair the Black family is to repair all of humanity. And one of the things in my particular chapter that I give as a solution is, and this is kind of paraphrasing it, but for parents and children to just take a step back and observe one another and look at how our actions as children affect our parents and how our actions as parents affect the children. Because most parents don't think that children are human beings. See, you are to be seen and not heard. When grown people are in the room, shut up or get out of the room. And so these are things that's been passed down to us through slavery. But we have to understand and realize that children are human beings with feelings, with emotions and wants. And so sometimes the actions of the parent can stunt the growth of the child, and they don't know what the child is thinking. And the next thing you know, the child goes throughout life with these inferiority complexes because their ego and their self-esteem was not built up as they were growing up. And then sometimes the actions of the children, from the result of the way they're being treated by their parents, they can be very hateful toward their parents. And then the parents throw their hands up and say, well, there ain't nothing that I can do with them. So my solution for that, or one of the solutions, is for both to just step back, have a conversation with each other, and, you know, actually listen to one another. When I listened to my father, I'm telling you, it blew my mind. I'll give you a peek into this. I told my father, I said, man, and I'm in my 30s at this time, late 30s. I said, man, all my life, you have never told me that you love me, ever, not one time. And you know, as a child and as a son, that's what a child wants to hear from his father. I love you, son. You did a good job, son. And I've never heard that ever in my life up to that point. And the response from my father was, well, I do love you, son. He said, but I thought I was showing you that by putting food on the table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head. And this is the part that got me. He said, I was only giving to you what was given to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I had to stop and say, man, I'm demanding something from him that is not even in him, that he never received. So that gave me an entirely different perspective of my father. And I was like, he's doing the best that he can with what he knows how to do. And so we started from that point having conversations and being able to really see one another for who we are at that point. So that became like a ground zero. And then we started our relationship from that point. And it's been a very good relationship since then.
So the way you present it is that the true effectiveness to the bond was based on effective communication.
Absolutely. Communication is the most important thing that we can do with one another and with parents and children. There's this unwritten law, in particular in Black households, where you're the child, you just do what I say. There is no communication because communication is two-way. See, one person speaks while the other person listens, and then that person who was listening then responds to the person who was speaking before, and then that person can now start a conversation or says something, and that's communication, two-way communication. But all too often, we think communication is giving orders, giving instructions, and everything is one way. I'm the parent, you're the child, you do what I say. So what happens is, where the communication is stifled one way between parents and children, now the child starts to become resentful of the parent because they're unable to express themselves. So that's why a lot of our children, in particular young men, resort to violence, because they have all of these emotions that's pent up inside of them that they were never able to get out verbally. Now it's coming out through their actions. Young girls, young women are now releasing that energy through sex because they weren't able to talk to their mothers about sex, about relationships, because in most cases, the mother never had a stable relationship. So this thing, communication, is so very important that without it, we have a degeneration, or a disintegration is a better word, a disintegration of our households, of our families. And it's to the point now where communication is almost nowhere to be found.
So communication is extremely impactful in our communities because I've read a couple of books through the teachings study guide, and it says, quote me, get me right now, it says something to the matter that self-improvement is the basis for community development. So yes, until we truly understand how effective communicating with our peers, our family, our community, we will still be in that void and we will become dominant in our own individual space. And we do not choose to share, and we just want to be king or queen in our own space. So according to what you were saying, you gave up so much. It sounds that may be the if I can use the word, that may be the cure to all of our communities. Sitting at the round table, communicating with one another, and discussing maturely what puzzles you, what puzzles me. It may be a connection there or a similar um, void in both our communities, in both our mindsets.
Mhm.
Is that possible that that can be contributed to some type of mental illness by the way we just react without attempting to seek solution?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Man, you said a lot in that too. I would put it to you like this. So self-improvement is in fact the key, it's the basis of community development. Now, in order for us to have communication and proper communication, it takes courage to face something, to face someone. So that's the first thing. We must have courage. And along with that, we must have the desire to want to change, to want to be better, to want to have that relationship. Because if I don't have the desire to want to have that relationship with my parents, then it's not going to be a starting point with that. And so courage, desire, which builds the will. And so working on ourselves, because a lot of times we like to point the finger. Well, see, it's because of you that I'm in this situation. It's because of you, such and such and such and such. And you know, okay, I'll give us that. But there comes a point in time to where we become grown enough to be on our own and to make our own decisions. So we can't go throughout life blaming our parents for the situation we're in. Okay, they didn't do the best job. They did the best with what they had. But okay, what about now? What are you doing now? Because you have the ability to think and change. So that calls for you and I to look at the person in the mirror first. And when I can work on that person through self-examination, self-analysis, self-correction, when I can do that with myself, then that helps me with the courage that it takes to deal with my parents and deal with other people. So that all of that underlines communication. When you have communication, because it's a big subject, but you're correct, brother, communication is key in all of the above that was said, and to actually helping to cure the violence in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this that I'm regurgitating, I remember from back in the day when you were here teaching, and so great teachings. And I heard you on a
We did
recent
a good
broadcast.
job there.
And on a recent broadcast, I've heard you mention where the minister spoke of death and that there are several stages of death. And with all this killing, I'm believing that individuals in our community, they are facing that aspect of death that you define as grief. Can you elaborate on that aspect of grief where a lot of people are falling into and they're not able to rebound from that?
Mm. Man, that's a great question. So yeah, all of us at some point in our life have a loss. Whether we've lost a loved one, we've lost a job, we've lost our health, some type of loss. And whenever we experience loss in our lives, it takes away a piece of us, that liveliness, that spark, you know. And the more losses we take in our lives, then the more it continues to zap away the spirit of life until it gets to the point to where we are only a shell of our former selves. And so now I walk through life not seeing life as I should, but I walk through life like a zombie, almost lifeless. And when a person becomes lifeless, then they don't really possess the awareness that it takes to see what's happening around them. They don't have the necessary tools that it takes to come up out of situations. So what happens is the more losses we take, then the next thing you know, the less we are obedient to the will of God. And then our life starts to take this downward spiral. And in going on a downward spiral, it leads to a spiritual death. And that spiritual death ultimately leads to, if it's not caught, it leads to an untimely physical death. So we have to stay alive spiritually, mentally, so that we can preserve this physical life that we have.
All right. Well, I like that. We're going to circle back. Hey, this is Brother Lawrence. We're talking here at the round table, the voice of the community. And we're talking about him co-authoring a book that's titled, along with 33 other individuals, Repair of the Black Family. And he's been able to chat with us about different topics from loss, from manhood, communication, and more so, the relationship between the young Black male and the older Black male, communicating effectively. Well, Brother Lawrence, tell us, how can we get our hands on this book?
Oh, well, great. Of course, it's right now, it's available on Amazon, and you can go and get it on Amazon. And then you can also, I have a direct link that you can get, which I'll share with you, a link that people can go to in order to get that book. And I'm telling you, I'm very happy about the book. We've been getting rave reviews on the book. And actually, I forgot to tell you that the book is an international bestseller. I mean, the book is in Africa, it's in Grenada, it's all over the world. And so, you know, we're happy about it. And we're very, very excited. And I wanted to say this also, that we are traveling, we're coming to cities, we're dealing with mental health issues, we're dealing with repairing the Black family. So if you would like us to come to your city, just let us know, and we will actually come to your city. And you don't have to worry about a thing. We will be there, and we're holding seminars and conferences and things of that nature.
Okay. So the name of the book is Repair of the Black Family. It consists of 33 authors, and it's called an anthology. And we're talking about, you will purchase the book, a lot of insight, great information, but you'll walk away with 99 solutions. Well, that's close to Jay-Z line, isn't it? Man, 99 solutions. So, hey.
Isn't that right?
Well, yes, Brother Lawrence, I appreciate it. And give you the last few moments to close us out, please.
Yes, sir. Well, once again, I want to thank you, my brother, for having me on. Thank you for this opportunity, and continue to do what you're doing with this platform. The community definitely needs a voice, and they need a positive voice. And I know sometimes it can be a little difficult to have a positive voice in a world of so much negativity. But if you continue with that work, be like the trumpet, because the trumpet gives off a piercing sound that cuts through all of the chaos and all of the clutter. So continue to do what you're doing. And I'm proud of you, my brother. I'm glad to see that you're doing this. And you know, this is not the end, man. We can get together and bring this repair of the Black family to the city of Monroe, because I know we need it there. And so we'll get together and put some dates together and make that happen.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you. Thank you.